It says starting at the bottom. Here we go. It says,
all right, yeah, it says live.
Live. Wonderful. We've finally managed to get it up and working. It still says 0 viewers at the bottom, so I'm not sure what's happening there.
Where? Oh.
Maybe it's just me who's got that then.
Yeah, I don't. So where are the comments coming in?
Trying to find them now. Create a studio, live streaming. It says, okay, events. Yeah. Live control room. 23 people watching now.
Oh, hi.
Hello. So I hope all of this is working. Apologies if it isn't. I'm trying my best to keep all the technology working. In the meantime, shall we just kind of go around the people who are currently in the chat and introduce ourselves, what year we're in, what college and subject and stuff?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Jessie, do you want to start?
Yeah. I'm Jessie. I'm a first year. I study music and I'm at St. Hugh's College.
Nice. I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I've just got a message saying stream status is bad. Saying in the current configuration, the primary and backup streams have different keyframe frequencies. You need to configure the streams to have the same keyframe frequency. Okay. What is
What
this?
does that mean?
I don't know. I really don't know. Streams have the same keyframe frequency. Oh, I've managed to open myself in another window. That's very disconcerting.
Okay, we have 2 questions. Have they been answered yet? Should we say
question?
So I'm hoping, can someone send a message just to confirm, can someone comment saying like we're live and everything's working? Because according to the YouTube page, they're not very happy with the bandwidth type stuff.
Okay, well, I can see it live and I can see questions coming in. There are lots of people. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
Should you continue the introductions then and then go on to questions? And
Sounds great. So Jessie did her introduction. Bryce, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bryce, I'm a student. So I'm a 3rd year back home. I'm at Lady Margaret Hall doing physics and philosophy, and I'll be here for the year.
Okay.
Cool. Shall I go next?
Yeah.
I'm a PhD student. I've got about a year to go, and I'm researching the biomechanics of insect flight, and I'm at St. John's. To answer the question, which is the best college, I will be very biased and say St. John's. College.
Yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm Jenna. I'm a 2nd year studying Spanish at Lincoln College. And though I didn't initially apply to Lincoln, I ended up here through a very long-winded route, and I love it. So, Lincoln.
Yeah, in general, my experience from speaking to people, even if they don't get into the college they applied for, everyone always really likes the college they end up in.
Yeah, it's very rare that not happen.
People who are pulled here because it's quite far away from the centre. I mean, I did apply here, but it has a lot of people who are pulled, and no one has been like, oh my god, I want to come here. Everyone really likes it. So.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, we've got more questions popping up. This is exciting.
Where are these questions?
I think the easiest way of going about it is from the first question, just in terms of chronologically. One from Anaya. I'm sorry if that's pronouncing it wrong. Were you all A-star students during your whole life? It's just quite amazing. Anyone want to take the lead on this one?
When I was in year 9 or year 10 at school, when we started our GCSEs, I was a CD borderline student. I was expected to get a D in GCSE English. And I was in my AS level music actually, about a week before my exam. Someone marked my work and they said my coursework was a U. So definitely not.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same. I think I was always sort of, I think humanities can be really difficult in terms of like subjective marking and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's hard to maintain an A-star standard in something like English, where I found from one week to the next, I'd kind of go up and down.
I didn't go to school in England, so we don't have the GCSE and A-level system. In Spain, we have our mocks out of 10. I definitely did always get very good grades, and for Spanish students, they require an average of 90% and more. So most of my grades were within that range, but I definitely had exams that were less than 9s and 10s.
Yeah, I think everyone has that. I think you've got to, put some.
Yeah, I would say the same. Again, I'm from the US, so the US system is a little different, but for the most part, my grades were pretty good across the board. So I guess applying to Oxford as a visiting student is slightly different, but they do still have a pretty high cutoff in terms of grades for even being able to apply to the visiting student program. So yeah, my grades have been okay. I'll put it that way.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I say, I did have those like considerably lower grades, but in my final results, I did end up with the A's and A stars. But it definitely wasn't like a smooth track as people. I wasn't like born like getting A stars at all or anything like that.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I've just got a couple of comments. I'm just keeping an eye on them. A couple were saying that Jessie, your mic isn't very clear or might be having some problems. I'm not sure if there's a way we can
Sorry.
do that. That's fine.
I don't quite know how to change that.
I'm gonna go for the classic: turn it off, turn it on, hope for the best.
I tried to go to the control center and it says I'm in a moderated video call, so I can't do anything.
Oh, should I see if I can do anything? In the meantime, do people want to crack on with some more questions? Let's have a look. But one saying, how passionate about your subject do you have to be, by Yogi?
I would say pretty passionate.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think actually being enthusiastic and enjoying the subject you're doing is almost more important than being a grade A student, because there's another question I've seen about how motivated you have to be. I think the more you enjoy doing something, the less likely you are to hate it when you have to work on it very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. The US system is a lot more guided than the UK system is, and I think so in the US you can sort of get away with not being really interested in your major, but since your professors are basically holding your hand through the major, it's a lot easier to sort of get away with that. But here it's very independent. There is a lot of responsibility put on you, so if you're not passionate about it, it's going to be very difficult to get work done and to be organized and to still perform at a very high level. So yeah, definitely I'm finding that it's really important to love your subject.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of like the rate of Oxford study and the intensity, like in my first year, I had quite a lot of compulsory linguistics, which I didn't choose to do as my degree, but ended up having to take it as part of my Spanish sole degree. So I found that really difficult. Whereas this year, having been able to select my own stuff and like realize why I was so passionate about it in the first place has made all the difference. Oh, there's someone else who's joined. Is this Rowan? Rowan, are you out there?
I would say like being passionate about your subject. It was something actually I was quite scared about before I came, because people said like you have to be really, really passionate, and I was like, I don't like doing music 24/7. I like having a break too. So like there's a difference between enjoying yourself and like enjoying doing the subject, but like we are human, we don't just sit there the whole time doing our work.
Yeah.
And I definitely found that I enjoy my degree a lot more than I actually thought I would.
In
Guys,
terms of
can you guys see me?
Yes, you are sideways, but we can see you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
It's sorted. I got on my phone.
Oh, nice. Just to say, I've got control of Jesse's mic. I don't think in terms of the quality I can really do anything, but I can adjust the volume, so that might be able to help if it's coming across too loudly.
I can try and do my phone if that's easier.
Okay, that might be useful. Yathrib, do you want to do quick introductions?
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Yathrib. I'm a first year medic and I'm at Magdalen College. And I'm sorry I'm so late. My laptop was just not having it.
No worries. I'm just glad we got here in the end. I was going through the whole day like, how am I going to set up a Hangout? Okay, we've got some. We've got another question saying, do any of you study PP or history? And I'm afraid from what I know of this group, we don't have anyone. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone do PP or history? Okay, so I've got quite a lot of friends doing history or PP. So if you want to, like, if you've got a specific query, maybe post it, comment on one of the Facebook pages, or we can try and get you in touch with someone. Rena's randomness says, I'm a current first year, like some of you. How are you finding the workload social life balance? So I guess I'll throw this out to Jesse and Yathrib.
I'm sorting out my mic, so Yathrib might want to go.
Oh, okay. Yathrib, how are you finding the balance between like medicine degree, socializing?
Well, it was quite difficult at first because it's such a different way of learning.
Mm-hmm.
You're taught completely differently to how you are in school. And essays, just essays, it's so different to school where you're given a specification, you go away, you make your notes, you learn whatever you have to learn, and then you do past papers, and then you're pretty much sorted. But I think I'm getting better at learning how to juggle doing my essays, doing social things, finding time to talk to people back home.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all about organization. So I bought a planner and I write everything I need to do every single day. And by doing that, I think I'm getting better at managing my time. I don't know, Jessie, do you agree?
Yeah, I think what actually interesting fact is Yathrib and I went to the same school in year 12.
Did you? Oh,
We did. I then moved to year 13. But from our school, the teaching was quite non-existent. So, and because I did humanities subjects, I was quite used to before just being given a book like with a kind of inadequate specifications and writing essays from that. So in a way, it's quite similar. But a difference I find here, which I think is actually quite nice, is that everyone's in it together. So like everyone in my tutorial group, we all help each other out. And if someone's stuck on one, we're all kind of on the same page. So it's difficult, but it's like completely manageable. Like you get used to it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for like adjustment to Oxford study as well, and like being good friends with the people in your course, if you can be. I guess it's kind of different if you're a PhD student and quite, I don't know, in a like, do you find it different now compared to before in terms of working on your own?
I didn't catch that. I'm excited for him. What's that?
Can't see her. Okay, yeah. I found it very useful for my.
So I would say quite different. Personally, I would say the exams the first year technically.
I'm so sorry, I'm not able to hear.
Vanished.
What makes it so okay? You vanish in parts. We get about half of each sentence. Oh. Okay, maybe we can come back to the
Cut out. I can see myself, but I can't see myself on the live stream.
Oh, well, your video is now absolutely fine, so if you want to carry on, that'd be great.
Guys, quick question. How do you find the comments?
What I was saying,
Yathrib will send you a link to try and find the comments. Elise is kind of cutting out for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I've lost her as well.
Okay, shall we come back to the undergrad versus post-grad kind of like how we approach the workload and move on to
I'm on two
Daniel.
places.
Daniel's got a question saying, how much time should we spend preparing for a potential interview? Oh, Inés is rejoined. So how much time did everyone spend preparing for interview, or what sort of things did you find helpful? I feel like it was a while ago for me.
And I didn't have an interview as a visiting student. Our application process was slightly different, so I got away without having to do an interview.
Did you find helpful? I feel like it was a while ago for me. Oh, am I a bit behind?
No, sorry, that's me trying to sort things out.
That's fine. I find it really weird hearing my own voice. Yeah, I don't know how much time I spent as such, because it was quite difficult, because you're in the start of year 13 where things start to, well, in the English system where things start to amp up a bit with A levels, and at the same time you receive some information in November about interviews. So the main stuff I did was rereading my personal statement, picking out specific things and being able to defend what I'd said. Though this did not go totally well, because I was one of those silly people who decided to say, oh, well, I've read that by the time I get to interview. Let's just pop that on. So yeah, definitely reading everything. I guess it varies for science.
For me, I did quite a lot of reading outside the specification.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely keeping up with the scientific news. So I read Nature, which is a scientific magazine / journal. BBC News, which had a lot of scientific articles. I read quite a few books as well, and it's just about finding the thing that you find really interesting. So for me, that was genetics, and I read quite a lot about genetics before I went, and then I managed to speak about that in my interview.
Mm-hmm.
And it was less of an intimidating experience, because it was something that I was comfortable with.
That is good. I think definitely finding something you're passionate about outside of the specification for, I guess, humanities and sciences is good for interview.
Yeah, and for me, like, I did exactly that. So like the main area I'm interested in is women composers.
Okay.
So I looked up, I started reading about that and stuff. This was completely not for UCAS. This was before results day. It was before I decided to apply to Oxford. But I did a petition about the lack of female composers in the A-level music syllabus.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just looking at your subject and looking at it critically, which I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And then going on from what you've noticed from that, then going on to read further.
Yeah. Complete side note, but I realised I'd signed your petition, and then when I realised it was you who was on Oxflog, I was like, oh, it's exciting. I've lost the page with all the questions. Let me try and find it again. Anyone else got a question in the meantime that they can find to answer? Oh, here we go. Oh, they're flooding in. Shall we do one of those quick fire things?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay, wow. Okay, so Jed Carr asks, what are the best things to be doing if I'm in year 11 other than working hard and reading around the subject? Thanks. I think you pretty much sound like you've got it sorted. I think trying to get GCSE grades as strong as you can is great. Also, like having a look at specifications for all the handbooks for what your first year will entail if you pick an Oxford degree. I think those are quite useful. What are the things were people doing at GCSE stage if they knew they were interested in Oxford?
I wasn't interested at that point.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying. I think quite a lot of people don't really think about it until closer to the time. So even having the thought in the back of your head about needing to get ahead and be extra on top of things is a start.
I think it's helpful, but don't worry if you're not at that stage.
Yeah.
It's like good if you can start finding that interest. That'd be really cool, and you can like continue building it. And obviously you're interested, so that's good anyway. But I'd say for that, mainly try and just do things you're really interested in and what you find fun.
Yeah.
Someone asked, did you attain the grades you expected to on the BMAT? For the most part, yes, because I did loads of classes before and my scores, and I was getting pretty consistent marks towards the end of the revision period. And that combines with my performance on the day, I would say, yeah, I did get what I expected to. Yeah.
Very quickly, hi Rowan. Do
Hi, I made it.
you want to introduce yourself quickly? Now we've got
Hi, I'm Rowan. I do engineering at Wadham College. I'm a fresher, and I'm late because the fire alarm went off in my staircase.
fire alarms. So I've just had a quick comment from Molly saying Oriel's the best, smiley face, regarding colleges.
Have you seen Magdalen?
Have you seen St. John's?
Oh, St. John's is really nice, but Magdalen, do you guys have a deer park?
To be fair, Magdalen Deer Park is beautiful.
We have the cheapest accommodation in Oxford.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I've heard that actually.
sounds great. I'm just hearing the bells ringing and feeling like this is very typical Oxford.
The bells. Oh my god, they go up throughout the night. And I'm at Hughes. I thought I wouldn't hear it from this far away.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a question from Nicola that I've just seen saying, interested to know whether there are down-to-earth people studying and graduating from Oxford, or if there are types and graduates. I feel this is a very kind of, I don't know, Oxford stereotype breaking question. I've definitely found that people are really more down to earth than I expected. How has everyone else felt?
Yeah, everyone I've met is really nice generally.
Yeah, I would say most people I think tend to be surprised that they've got a place at Oxford, and lots of people struggle with what's known as imposter syndrome, where they feel the system has made a mistake in choosing them. But you know, if you have got a place at Oxford, the people who selected clearly thought you were able to do it. But it's really surprising just how many people genuinely feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would argue that quite a lot of people are very humble and grateful for being in the university, as opposed to feeling that they're entitled to their place here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I actually watched the movie The Riot Club right after I got in, which was this spring that I found out. And so my expectations were, I mean, obviously I didn't, I took it with a grain of salt, but I was very pleasantly surprised to find that a lot of the people here are down to earth. And that's not to say that, you'll run into some people who are a little posh and you talk to them for a little bit and you find out they went to Eton or something like that. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. But overall, I mean, we're just like normal people, so it's not anything out of the ordinary, really.
I'm just writing a post on the Facebook page, just in terms of the next question. I'm not sure how we'll go about answering this one from Gregster saying, what are the worst set of GCSE results somebody from Oxford has gotten? I feel like we can kind of approach it from how do Oxford take GCSE results into account. I think that's probably the way we can take it.
I was actually thinking of making a video on this one. It really depends. It is a part of your application, part of what they consider in your application, but it's not the whole thing. And they also consider what school you've gone to beforehand, and they contextualize your GCSE results. So I got below the Oxford average, certainly for my subject for GCSEs, but obviously my admissions test and my interview went well, and I didn't go to a fantastic school. So it depends what subjects. I think for medicine, perhaps they care a bit more about your GCSEs, but in general, I think it should never stop you from applying to Oxford, because it's a part of your application, but only a part.
I think it does depend on the subject, because for medicine, when they come to select you for interview, 50% of their decision is based on GCSE grades. 50% is GCSE grades, and the other 50% is BMAT. So they don't even properly look at your personal statement before they take you for interview. But they do take into account contextual information. So it depends on if you get better grades with respect to the other people from your school, for example. So if you went to a bad school where most people get worse GCSE grades and you did well in comparison, then that's going to put you a few notches higher on their list.
definitely.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of GCSEs done. Anaya says, thank you for answering my question. You're welcome. We've got a lot to get through. No one here studying law, I don't think. Molly's asked perhaps some admissions test advice. I think they're next week. So trying to think through who of us would have had to sit one. Obviously BMAT. Music, was there an admissions test?
No admissions test.
And there's nothing for visiting students.
Nope. I had to send in some supplements, and that's about it.
Yeah, I had to do written work too. There's actually quite a lot of extra written work for music. You have to send in 2 essays, which aren't really part of the A-level course, which is quite interesting. And then you have to send in 2 pieces of like harmony and counterpoint, which is kind of like composition.
Okay.
But something, if any music students are out there, something I'd say about the essays are just write what you would write for A-level. That's what I did. They're not expecting like much more, because for music you don't really write considerably like very long essays for A-level, yet they ask for 1,500 word essays, but I just wouldn't worry about that. Everyone's coming from the same position, and I sent in A-level essays, so it was okay.
Rowan, did you have one that was it physics or?
Yeah, so I think if you're doing physics, engineering, physics and philosophy and materials, you set the physics admissions test. I did a video on admissions tests if you want to look at the channel, but that's my advice. My advice is if you haven't already, look at all the past papers and the information on the website. Past papers are always helpful. And try not to worry too much, because I was really stressed out when I took my admissions test, and it certainly didn't help, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I had to sit 2 on the same day because I applied for joint honours English and Spanish, and I definitely think it came across in the fact that I ended up with an offer for Spanish but not for English, and that was very much due to the fact that my ELAT result was quite low. I think it was kind of easier to prepare for the Spanish one because some of it was like grammar and translation, and you could kind of recap A-level more. Whereas I don't think I had a good enough idea of how to structure my essays for English. So I think definitely doing a few more past papers, doing a bit more analysis of text would have helped. Inés, do you have anything on the topic of admissions tests? We've lost Inés audio-wise. Okay, let's carry on. This is supposed to be quick fire, wasn't it? This has not gone well. Did no one sat the thinking skills assessment? I don't think.
No.
I think with all of these, if there's something that none of us is studying, drop us a message in our inbox or on Facebook, and we can try and put you in touch with someone who's sat those tests.
I know Jamie Mills on YouTube has made videos about thinking skills assessment, I think, or about rather just essay writing admissions tests. They're quite good if people want to look that up.
That's a very good point. Yeah, generally look stuff up on YouTube as well, because someone might have done specific ones. Alex says, how much outside reading would you suggest to do? Is it better to know a couple of books cover to cover, or have a broad knowledge of a lot of subjects in slightly less detail? I will definitely say it's better to know a couple in great depth, because in your interview, well, at least what I found was that you maybe talked about 3 different books and had a full-on engaged discussion in them, rather than saying, oh, I've read this, but I've also read a bit of this. I think your mind's in too many spaces if you try and like get to know a full scope of literature. I don't know if anyone else, I guess it's kind of different for different subjects in terms of scope of reading.
I think it's probably good to know a little of everything, but to know a couple of things in quite a lot of detail, because if you want to discuss it at interview, say, just having a bit of general knowledge won't help too much.
Yeah.
So perhaps know a bit more for something.
I think for music, I think I read 2 main books in like a lot of detail. I wasn't actually asked about them in my interview, but it definitely gave me something I could draw on. Whereas if I had like a wide range of stuff, I wouldn't really be able to draw on anything I learned from that, which is quite significant because they don't really care about what you know. It's more like by reading like in detail, you can gain the concepts of it and be able to apply that.
Yeah, something I've heard about interviews in general is it's not about what you know, it's about how you cope with what you don't know. And I guess this varies between like, I don't know, different subjects, but I think it's definitely about your approach to things and your attitude towards problem solving rather than being able to tick a box of, oh, I know about this or I can talk about this.
They want to know that you're interested in just anything to do with your subject. So if you've read a couple of books on one subject you're really interested in, and then just focus on a particular bit of your subject that you can talk about, that's what they'd like to see that you've done. It's not a huge part of your interview, but that's what they'd like. So just follow what you're interested in. Just do what. Don't feel like you have to read particular books. Read particular books that you are interested in.
I definitely agree with that. Just having a look at the question feed. Molly says for Classics Course 2 it involves daily Latin classes, so a certain level of passion is required. Tambril says, is Maudlin any good?
Maudlin is great, Tambril. You know that. It's great. It's a fairly big college, I believe. There are around 400 people here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's great. There are so many lovely people here.
That sounds good.
Why Oxford, not Cambridge?
I have a very simple answer to this. I applied for joint honours English and Spanish. Cambridge don't offer joint honours languages like that.
When I was applying, I actually went to the Sutton Trust Summer School at Cambridge,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more of the access I was involved in was at Cambridge. And I quite liked the city, but their music course is not very good, in my opinion, for me.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no way I could apply for it because I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So, and I really like the Oxford one.
Anyone else?
For me, I
Yeah.
prefer the city in the end. I just prefer Oxford as a city to Cambridge.
Yeah, it's slightly bigger
Mm.
and a bit more of a city feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce, did you have the option of going for Cambridge, or was it?
I did actually have the option, and I don't know why I didn't consider it. I think from the US perspective, when we talk about like the best universities in the UK, of course it's Oxford and Cambridge, but for whatever reason, Oxford seems more popular. Like you hear about Oxford more often. You don't hear about Cambridge so much. So when I was sort of choosing between them, I was like, oh, I'll just go with Oxford. It was kind of arbitrary, but also I was sort of just following what I had heard, and you just hear more about Oxford.
Mm-hmm. I've just had a question. What happened about quickfire? So I feel like we should see if there's anything we can quickly go for. Is there any time for bants in Oxford? Asked Tambril. If in terms of bants, it's like just, I don't know, social, extracurricular, having time for yourself, I think there definitely is. I think quite a lot of like Simon's videos, Jamie's videos, and the Oxford project more generally, there's a reason why we try and promote both the academic and the social side of our lives, because there's so much to get involved in. And it's tough to balance, but you kind of somehow get a grip on it during your course, your time here. Anyone else quickly want to talk about time for bants?
Do you mean like just fun? Like,
I assume that's, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I tend to work and go out, and you find times of things you enjoy. And it's not all just horrible work. It's good fun as well.
I feel something that could be answered quite quickly from Andy is, are there any scholarships to study a PhD? I want to apply for a PhD in law. I'm not sure I can do it because I did my degree in Spain. I don't know if it is.
I wanted to take that question because I wanted to answer that one before. So I'm from Spain. You absolutely can apply, even if you did your degree in Spain or wherever. They'll be interested in knowing how interested you are in taking the place, and also, I guess, how enthusiastic you are. Obviously, if you've done well in the degree, that shouldn't be a problem. And there are scholarships out there. I've got more experiences with the sciences. They tend to be quite competitive, but you can apply I think Rhodes School, Little Clarendon Trust, the Wellcome Trust, all of them have different scholarships that you can apply for. And some places come with a funded scholarship with them.
That sounds great. Yeah, there's generally a fair bit of information online for at least undergraduate study, so that might be able to give you a list somewhere. And hopefully Ines has been able to answer the PhD.
A question keeps coming up about which other unis did you apply for?
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
So yeah, Rib.
Okay, so I applied here to Imperial, Bristol, and Nottingham, and that's because for medicine you can only apply to 4 medical schools, and then the other has to be a backup option. So for my backup, I applied for biomed at Newcastle, and I got the biomed one. I got here obviously, and so I got Imperial. Yeah.
Jessie, what did you go for?
I did Oxford, Nottingham, York, and Durham. I applied for 2 different courses at Durham because I quite like the collegiate system. I applied for music for one and music and education for the other, with the intent if I got just education to change to music, which is not advisable, but it was like my 5th option.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
And Rowan?
So I applied for general engineering at Warwick, Exeter, and Oxford, and I applied for mechanical engineering at Imperial, College London, and Bath, and I got 5 offers, and my backup choice was Bath if I didn't get the grades for Oxford.
I can kind of answer 2 questions in one. Someone's asked what I'm studying. I'm studying Spanish. I applied everywhere to my 5 universities for English and Spanish. So I applied here, Warwick, Nottingham, Southampton. God, this is taking me back. Exeter.
Yeah, I only applied to Oxford for my undergraduate in the UK, but I applied as an international student from Spain. So basically a whole year later, I then did lots of backup applications to Spanish universities, mostly in my hometown, Seville, and neighbouring provinces.
That sounds great. Bryce, did you just apply here? How does it work if you're taking a year somewhere else?
Yeah, so they actually had me, if you apply to Oxford, you have to have a backup program. So my backup program was a year in physics at UCL, but I didn't even get a chance to hear from them because I heard back from Oxford. And I had to apply to a specific Oxford college. I had about 6 options. So I applied directly to LMH, and I wasn't allowed to apply anywhere else.
Yeah, someone's asked what we all study. I think they probably missed some of it. Should we just recap?
Sure. Insect biomechanics, PhD, and I did a undergraduate in biological sciences at St John's College.
Yeah, Brooke?
I'm studying medicine. I'm in my 1st year.
Jessie?
I'm studying music. I'm also in my 1st year.
Bryce?
I'm a 3rd-year visiting student studying physics and philosophy.
And I study engineering, and I'm in my 1st year.
Nice. Right, I think that's hopefully recapped. Anyone have any info about admissions for Oriental Studies? I'm so sorry, I'm going to shut the door. I'm on a fresher staircase this year. Rather noisy. So Oriental Studies, I'm not too sure. I think my advice in that case would be have a look at the department website.
If there are any specific questions, someone upstairs I know does Oriental Studies, so drop me a message and I will ask him.
Wonderful. Oh, this is an interesting one from Katie. Advice to get out of a burnout stage and staying focused at school. So what are we taking burnout stage to mean? Is it working too hard too early on?
Get really tired?
Yeah. I don't know if I can apply that to school as much, but for Oxford, I think it might be interesting to talk about how we try and, I don't know, stay on top of everything and not let work get to us too much and like balance things. Anyone got any tips?
I actually think having a good mix of time that you do for work and then time that you spend doing other things such as sport actually encourages you to work harder and in slightly less time, so that you're then able to do what you want to do. And also because you've got that reward, you're much more likely to enjoy your work more and get it done quicker. In theory. In practice, it's another matter.
Well, I don't have much experience in terms of burnout at university, but I could talk a bit about A levels and perhaps GCSE burnout. Like Ine said, it's obviously much better to structure yourself a lot better from early on, but you probably will burn out at some point. And I think what helped me the most is taking a break. So taking at least a couple days off, giving myself time to reflect on everything and set my priorities straight again, and just remember what I was doing and why I was doing it. Like, there are points where it just gets a bit too much, especially when someone mentioned earlier, if we became more nervous for our A2 exams after we got our Oxford offers. And I think to an extent I did, because it was sort of like the pressure was there that I got an Oxford offer, and I felt that I'd be quite embarrassed if I didn't make the grades to get there in the end. So that I put a lot of pressure on myself because of that. And there were points where I did almost burn out, but I had to take a break, take a step back, and then get back into it.
Yeah, I think I can definitely empathise with the whole, once you get an Oxford offer and people ask what you're planning on doing in the future, and you're like, oh, I've got an offer from Oxford, and they're like, oh, so you're going there. And yeah, that's during A levels. I think in terms of here, I have experienced burnout both as a first and a second year, by taking it to mean, I don't know, things getting a bit too much and taking too much on. I'm the type of person who likes to say yes to a lot of different things and then realising later the impact of it all. And I think that's a problem that quite a lot of Oxford students might experience, because we're very used to being high achievers who learn to balance things and structure our time, and getting to Oxford is a whole different ball game to school.
I think something I used to do at during A levels was I would just go for a walk.
Yeah.
So I would just like finish I just leave it. If I got in the middle of something, I was like, oh, I can't get any further. I just leave it and just go and walk around my local area, walk around the park, come back, give it another go. Because that can take as much time as you want it to. And it just clears your head a bit, which is quite nice. And also prioritizing sleep. Sleep is important. I like, when I'm working here and when I was working in year 13, I'd always do, I need 8 hours sleep in bed. So I'm stopping at that point.
Yeah.
And I can pick it up in the morning.
That sounds like a really sensible attitude, to just have a cut-off point.
My 8-hour limit, not going any further.
Yeah. Something that I found really interesting is Izzy's question. Do you think your accent has changed while you've been at Oxford? My friends have. Talking from experience, I think mine has. My mum's probably watching this video. She notices whenever I come home that there's a difference between how I speak over the summer vacation and how I speak after I've been back, even for a week.
Yeah, my parents say the same. Apparently, I have a much more Oxfordy accent the first week I'm back, and then after that I devolve into whatever my usual accent is, which I feel isn't that different, but
I'm not sure why it happens, because I don't know, the people I surround myself with, most of them don't talk in a way that I'd consider really Oxford or closer to received pronunciation or anything like that. What does everyone else think?
I've always been the kind of person that picks up the accent of people I'm talking to anyway. And I got quite offended the other day when someone said I sounded Southern because I'm from the Welsh borders. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what my family say when I go back home.
So Daniel asked a quick question to Rowan. I've been assigned Wadham. What do you think of the college?
Assigned Wadham?
Yes, for law.
So maybe is he deferred entry then? Oh no, is he got Wadham for interviews or something?
I think Wadham for interview, yeah.
Wadham's lovely.
Use this
It's a nice big college. Everyone's very nice. We've got quite a big culture of putting on quite a lot of fun events because we have bops every 2 weeks. We do queer bop and lots of events like that. Yeah, so far I really like it. I mean, I can't really compare it to other colleges because I haven't really ventured out too much being a fresher, but it's good fun. I'm really enjoying it here.
We've got a question from Jed. If people don't really feel comfortable answering this, or if they've been through a different education system, feel free not to mention it. It's just about our GCSE grades. I don't know. I'm happy to reveal mine. I got 9 A stars and an A, and then I got at A level 2 A stars and an A. But it's very dependent on schools and like contextualized data, like we said before. And I know that it very much depends on teaching and how exams go on the day and stuff. Anyone else want to talk about GCSEs?
I got the same as you, Jenna, but I got an A star at A level. But also something to note is I also had extenuating circumstances at A level. Mm-hmm. So had I not have got those grades, there was a possibility of leniency. Perhaps that's no way guaranteed. It's just Oxford noted that there was an issue with my schooling because I changed halfway through sixth form. But it's just something to note. If that is something you're going through, definitely get your school to email or just make it known somewhere that there is a difference in your application which should be taken into account.
I don't know who wants to talk. I'll talk. So I got 3 A stars at GCSE, and then I got 2 A stars and 2 A's at A level. I don't really know how much they looked into my GCSEs. I don't know if it was a big part of my application or I had particularly bad GCSEs compared to other applicants. I don't really know. I know my school wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't the worst school either. So there you go. That's just my record.
Let's see.
There are quite a few people asking about the BMAT. So last week, it's been, 3 days now, I think? And I assume some of the other admissions tests are also on the same day. So last minute tips, try not to cram or stress too much at this point because there isn't too much that you could do to rapidly and massively improve your score. Just try to think about it. Think about what exactly they're asking you and how you can answer that. And just try not to freak out too much. It's part of the application process. It's not the most important thing. And if it doesn't go wonderfully, it's not the end of the world. I know people who got very, very high scores and people who got much lower scores and they're still here. So try not to freak out about it too much. It will be fine.
Yeah, I think that's a good general comment because this is quite a stressful time. As in, it was quite a long time ago that we were all, well, some of us were back there. But yeah, keep your calm. I think something to say about interviews is the tutors aren't, well, mine at least, they're not trying to catch you out or make you feel uncomfortable. They're trying to push you to the extent that you look at things in a different way, and like it reveals more about you, I guess, when you're having to think on your feet.
I think something about catching you out, I was expecting to be caught out at interview from all the stories. So something I did is I was given some prep time beforehand and an extract from a book which started halfway through a sentence, halfway through a paragraph, talking about Mr. Tasnini's performance. And I had no idea who Mr. Tasnini was or what on earth he was performing. But I kind of like got Baroque violin and I was like, okay, I vaguely know what's going on. So I went into the interview, talked about it for 10 minutes. I said, so last question on this section, could you refer specifically to the last paragraph at the bottom of page 1, which is when I went really red and said, I'm really sorry, I didn't realise it was double-sided. Turn over the page, there are 4 pages of this book which explain who Mr. Tasnini is and what on earth he is performing, but no one had realised that I hadn't read it, so I actually think it worked in my favour. But the point is to not expect to be caught out because it did not start halfway through a sentence. The logical thing to do is think, is this a double-sided piece of paper? Maybe.
Molly, this was such a good idea, guys. Heart. Thank you, Molly. Positive vibes music. Rowan is a cutie.
Oh, thank you.
Ribosome, someone said. Okay, right, back to questions. What do you guys think about the proportions of international students in Oxford? Is it easy to make the transition into UK academic life? I come from London, so I'm not really able to talk about international students, but I can say that in our college we've got international reps in second year who are there, who come back early, look out for international students, and there's a couple of talks and things put on by the university as well about how to adapt. Anyone else got experience with being an international student?
Well, I would consider myself international by virtue of having moved from Spain to England, and although geographically it's not a long way, I actually found there's a huge difference in the way life is where I come from to how life is here. And I think everyone's international experience is quite unique. Some people adapt really well. I do find there are lots of international societies where you can actually make friends with people who come from Spain or from whichever country you're from. And I think those are great support networks if you're feeling particularly homesick. I feel there's no answer that's kind of one that fits all. I think Oxford is quite a strange bubble because there are so many people that are in the same boat as you, where everything is really new, that you will bond with people over that very experience. So I've had a lot of people say that they noticed that the UK students tend to stick together and then the international separately. And I think that actually, just because everything is new from a cultural perspective, might be the reason behind that. So I think there will be some degree of adaptation, but I'm sure it will go well. I mean, 6 years on, there are still things about Oxford that still feel very foreign to me, but other things that I absolutely love about it.
Bryce, how have you found your first couple of weeks here?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything there. It certainly depends on who you are, the way that you adapt, but it also, I think, depends on where you come from. So the US and the UK are a lot more different than I expected. Just the fact that we sort of share the same language, which, I mean, even that is a bit of a stretch. Really, culturally, there are quite a few differences. So there has been a lot of culture shock, but it has not been that difficult for me personally integrating. Now, it is true that you sort of do get those bubbles of like international students or visiting students and then everyone else, but it's certainly not hard to break out of that just because that is easy. You know, you get these sort of conglomerations, but I mean, it's very easy to go up and talk to people and, you know, join clubs and societies that, you know, are very mixed. So it's certainly not hard to integrate, provided you're willing to put the effort in. And yeah, depending on who you are, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. But for me, yeah, it's been pretty easy. Adjusting to the academic culture, though, has been a lot harder. So socially, not so bad. Academically, it's been more challenging.
Yeah, I think something that's worth pointing out is there's a really good University Counselling Service podcast. If you type in Oxford University Counselling Service international students, I had a quick listen just because as welfare rep, I might have to deal with international queries and things like that. So that might give you an overview of kind of attitudes towards adapting to Oxford. Fred asks, is it true that Cambridge has a higher intake from state schools?
Technically, yes, but very marginally.
Yeah, I think it does.
It's like 2%, I think.
Yeah, there will be figures online somewhere. I think every year Oxford publishes like a massive table with every stage of the admissions process and numbers and school background and gender and things like that.
So actually this year it's the highest percentage of state school students Oxford's taken. It's about 60%.
Which is still not completely representative by any means.
Yeah.
State and private split. It's getting better, but it's still not fair. Anyone got anything else to say about state independent schools? Or?
I mean, I actually said it in my video for this week. I think during the application process. It's something people put quite a lot of emphasis on, and rightly, because that's where you are in life at that time. But whilst you're here, I mean, as I said in my video, I don't know anyone's really schooling unless you specifically go up to them and say, which school did you go to? I don't think it's made a difference here at all. But I don't know, what do other people think?
Yeah, it's just not talked about. So don't worry about feeling being treated differently if you're from private or state school. And also, if it's a 60-40 split, you're not in a huge minority if you're from either.
That's true. Let's see. How to express my passion for the subject at the interview. Quite a difficult question to answer, really. I think to a certain extent you can't really, it's about how you come across naturally when you're talking about your subject. I think there's a lot to be said for you can do so much, but when it gets to interview, they're kind of testing your aptitude and the way you express yourselves, and that's kind of something you can't really learn.
I think something though that would have helped me is the ability to get through like a lot of information quickly, reading quite a lot. So I was given, for one of my interviews, I was given 2 sides of, like a double spread page from a book and 2 pages of musical score to analyse in 12 minutes, which is really like quick. And I was like, I don't know how to do this in 12 minutes. So something just kind of get through a lot of information quickly is something I would recommend.
Anything else about passion at interview?
Applying to a science subject, I didn't really prepare all that much. I was very lucky that I got a mock interview by chance. I actually think the best preparation I had was just to be a bit chilled when doing the interview, not trying to overthink it or worry about it, because I think in that respect, nerves can actually be a bad thing because you're more likely to overthink what you're saying and get stuck. I know that if, especially in our subject, if you do quote that you read a book, then it's very important that you've read the book and that you're able to talk about it, such as The Selfish Gene. Apparently there are lots of people who will say they've read this book, a book, but they haven't actually, and they get caught out when the tutors ask about it, because of course they've read your personal statement and they want to find out more about you and what you're passionate about. So make sure you're able to expand on things that are on your personal statement if you've put anything in particular.
On that note, there are people who say they've written a certain book and the interview is actually the writer of the book, and they tell them, tell me about this book, what to say. And it can be quite embarrassing, so definitely do not lie in a personal statement. But in terms of relaying your passion, you don't need to try to show that you're passionate, because if you're passionate about something and you're sat there with people who are equally passionate about it and you just have a conversation about it, because so for medicine you have 4 interviews. You have 2 interviews in one college and 2 in another. And in my first interviews, I was trying to come across as keen and trying to be like the Oxford student or whatever. And because of that, those 2 interviews went disastrously. But in the second set of interviews, I thought, okay, let me just have fun with this. Let me just enjoy myself and have a genuine conversation about something that I really like. And I found that those interviews went really, really well. So don't try to be passionate. If you're there, it's because you're good at what you do and you are passionate about it. So just have the conversation. How many people can say they get to speak with like a world leading expert in their field? Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and on that note, also at interview, they want to see how you think. They're not really testing how much you know. They don't necessarily want you to prepare for it. They want to give you a problem that they know you won't have the answer to and see how you deal with it. So being able to say, you don't know that, but here is your speculation on how you think you would find out the answer. That is really, at least in the sciences, especially biological sciences, that I think is what they're interested in knowing. They might want to see that you have a basic understanding of evolution and how you would apply it to test something.
I really tried to approach the whole interview process as something that I was going to try and enjoy and get something out of, regardless of whether I got in or not. And I think that really helped me. I mean, it's really hard perhaps not to think that way, or because it's such a precious situation. But I really tried to just enjoy my interviews, and I did, and I think that helps.
Yeah, Martin Canalos asks, are there any examples of tricky questions which can be asked at the interview?
Yeah.
I think something important with that is there will be tricky questions, but that's all within a context. So you're not just going to be asked this really random question. So one of my questions from interview was, how does notation relate to gender? Which sounds like I have no idea how to answer this, but I was given an extract from a book which was about notation. In my personal statement, I'd been writing about women composers, and we had just had a conversation on gender. So it all links together. It was not just this random walk-in, relate notation to gender.
Yeah.
They helped you along the way, and it was something I was interested in. So there will be tricky questions, but there's not really any point, I don't think, in just stating them, because that's just intimidating and not realistic of the context.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's all I'd say on that. I don't think I had any questions that I'd say were, I mean, there were tricky questions that make you sit back and think, but there was nothing that I absolutely couldn't approach based on what I'd already said or what route the conversation was going to go down. It was all kind of predictable. And that's
It's a conversation. You're guided through questions. If they ask something that you really don't know the answer to, you can just say, oh, I'm thinking about something to do with this, but I'm not entirely sure. It's a conversation, and they'll help you if they can see that you're struggling. And don't worry if you are struggling. They ask you tricky questions for a reason. Yeah.
And also remember that you will make mistakes. You will say some very, very stupid things, because I definitely did. But I'm asking you the tricky questions because you've gotten past all the other easy ones. They want to push you as far as you can go. And that's not a bad thing. They just want to get you to, they just want to see you do your best, basically.
Molly,
I think
comments, Inace, your hair looks amazing. Good choice.
Oh, thank you.
These comments were just being used for really sweet things. How did you find A levels and GCSE, and how long did you study them for? Says Unknown Gamer. So I guess this varies depending on those of us who sat them and those of us who came from a different system. So I did 2 years GCSE, 2 years A level, which I think is fairly standard.
Yeah, we did. My school did 3 years GCSE, 2 years A level.
Yeah.
And it's just, how did you find them? I can honestly say my AS level year was like the most horrendous year of school I've ever had. So if you're finding it awful and really difficult, that's completely okay.
Yeah.
Like, the way I found it really awful is because I kept thinking, oh my gosh, it's only AS level, it's just going to get so much worse. But it's different for different people at different points. So don't worry if you're finding something difficult.
I feel my advice will be terrible because I think the system in Spain was very different, and I did the thing that I don't think anyone should do, which was I studied the day before exams, and then the very big exams at the end. We had 2 weeks to revise for them, and I just did a topic a day. But it was very different when I came to Oxford, and I actually do think that the A-level system, what I understand from it, prepares you a lot better to study in ways that make more sense than the system I came from.
Bryce, how did you find the first, like, I guess just before university? Does that work differently in terms of
It works. Yeah, it's quite different. I think the US system is a lot more open-ended. You can pretty much do whatever, and I mean there's so many different schools that it really depends on exactly where you're applying to and exactly what you're applying for. I mean, we have something sort of similar to A-levels, AP courses or advanced placement courses. I've heard they're not quite as hard. And yeah, if you want to go to a good school, like an Oxford equivalent, so to speak, you should have, A's or A stars on maybe 4 or 5 of those. But yeah, it's pretty different, so I don't think it's terribly relevant.
Nice question from Molly. Favorite place to de-stress in Oxford?
Hinksey Park. It's about 10-20 minute walk down Abingdon Road, really quick to get to, but just outside of the Oxford bubble. Just go walk straight, and then on your right there'll be Hinksey Park. They've got swings, they've got a swimming pool in the summer, they have got ducks and a really nice nature walk. And I swear I think it's my favourite place in Oxford to distress and just take my mind off things.
Any other ideas?
When I was feeling pretty low or stressed out in freshers and first week, I'd just go see the college chaplain, and she has a little dog. I used to go stroke that or take her for a walk around the garden or something, and that helped me. Also, university parks are just up the road from Modern College, and they're really nice as well.
Mm.
I'd say G&Ds. I really do like G&Ds, not just for ice cream, but also they do really good breakfast food. They do like bagels and things. So G&D's on Little Clarendon Street, and also I really like going on afternoon walks to either Christchurch or Magdalen. So just grab a coffee, stick my headphones in, and go on a walk and forget everything. Jessie, Yathrib, do you have any ideas?
I don't feel like I've explored Oxford enough yet. I quite like walking around the Hughes grounds. The Hughes grounds are really, really pretty. And we have lots of lawns, and there's like a little kind of foresty bit at the back, and it's massive. So I just kind of walk around there, which is nice.
Someone's
Oh, just wondering if you had any ideas on de-stressing. Yeah, earlier, I guess.
I mean, LMH is right next to University Park, so that's really nice. We're pretty isolated, so I can just like walk outside, and it's very quiet, and so that's pretty nice. Yeah, we have nice gardens out here.
Yeah, in Magdalen there's this walk which basically goes around like the deer park and stuff in college, and it's nice to sort of get away from everything really. I find that extracurriculars help, so I kickbox every week, and I find that's fun to just sort of stress of work and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Doing sport helps. Seeing your friends, keeping regular activities ticking over. Yeah, I guess I'm probably going to do a whole video on like self-care and relaxation and welfare and stuff. Interesting question from Jen. How do you guys study differently now compared to back in sixth form? Is there still a solid syllabus with mark schemes? What I would give for a solid syllabus now, it's just a massive reading list, and you get told, right, go and explore.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on the school. So like, again, because I've had this experience of a bad year 12 school and a good year 13 school. From the year 13 school, it's different because we were given a lot of stuff by teachers and worksheets. But then from my year 12 school, I had to do a lot of extra reading by myself without much information because music syllabus is not very existent anyway. So I actually find it quite similar to that. Just being kind of confident enough to go off and go on your own track, which is okay. But I would say it is different because sometimes, like for the last 2 weeks, I haven't even been given a reading list. So that has been a bit intimidating. But you kind of just have to work through it and be like, this is a practice. The tutor is going to give me feedback. So it doesn't matter if I go wrong.
I think there's a big jump as well from prelims or moderations in your first year to final honours schools, and I guess similarly between undergraduate and graduate study.
It's a little bit different for engineering or perhaps science subjects because you do have kind of set modules that you have to learn the content of, and then you have problem sheets on those modules. So it is like having a syllabus the same way as school, I think.
Yeah, that's very true.
For medicine, we have an actual syllabus, so that's what actually it's got like everything we need to know, which is quite understandable because with medicine you kind of have to know a set amount of things.
Yeah.
So I kind of, well, you're not expected to know everything, especially for exams, but you do have everything that you need to know.
Yeah, so it just varies, I guess, in terms of solid syllabuses. Can't wait for that self-care video, Jenna. I will get onto it. Let's see what else. What do you think about Queen's College? Anyone been to Queen?
I didn't hear you.
I visited it. It seemed very nice. They have a lovely library. And people I know at Queen's were very happy with it. And in most cases, it was their second college, and they preferred that one to the first one they'd been to.
Oh, that's interesting.
But in general,
I applied to Queen's and I didn't get in, so they must have been badly oversubscribed for languages.
The only experience I have of the Queen's College is my friend from sixth form applied there and got an offer there, but unfortunately she has just dropped out. It wasn't because of Queen's College, but yeah, that's my only experience of Queen's College.
It's very impressive to look at when you're going down the high street.
It is very pretty. I interviewed there actually. So I applied to Magdalen and I was interviewed at both Queen's and Magdalen. Yeah, so it's a really pretty college. But I think just because of the pressure I put on myself during interviews, I didn't really enjoy it. But that's my personal experience.
Also, the accommodation for first year is really far out from what I've heard.
For Queen's?
Yeah, the Flory built, or maybe I'm completely wrong, but I know that there's one that's a little while away. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Let's have a look.
Someone was asking about for medicine reapplying after 3 years. So we basically get 2 degrees in medicine. So we get 1 degree after the first 3 years after your preclinical, like all the scientific information, and then the second 3 years we do all the clinical stuff, so all the hospital rotations. And it used to be that you had to reapply to stay in Oxford. So you either stayed in Oxford or you went to one of the London universities to do your clinical years. But now they've changed it. This year they've changed it so that everyone can stay in Oxford, because they used to do that because they couldn't take all 150 people on to the next stage of the degree. But even then, I think the vast majority of people, like 90% of people, stayed in Oxford. So that didn't really put me off, because I knew that the chances were that I'd stay, and even if I didn't, I'd still be going to a really good university. So that didn't really put me off.
Something Katie's asked, which I don't know if anyone's got any experience of, is views on part-time jobs during schooling. Oh, so schooling as opposed to university. Okay. I think it's probably worth saying, I don't think you're technically allowed to get a part-time job whilst you're at Oxford, or at least you need tutor's permission or have to go through some sort of academic procedure to be able to do one. Anyone got any experience with part-time jobs during school?
Yeah, I work part-time at sixth form in a coffee shop, only on Saturdays. I didn't feel like it got in the way of my work too much because it was in the mornings, and I didn't do any work in the mornings on the weekends anyway, so yeah.
I worked, but during the holidays, so it's a nice mix.
Yeah, I think quite a lot of people at Oxford like don't work whilst they're here, but then they go back to either a full-time or a part-time job during the vacations, and there's quite a considerable amount of time between terms if you're looking to earn money to sustain you through the degree.
I'd also point out with that, Oxford has the most generous bursary system of any UK university. So if money is an issue, that should not stop you applying to Oxford at all, because you get the most money here, and it is quite considerable, and you're very well supported if you come from a low-income background.
Yeah. Anything else on the topic of earning bursaries potentially?
St John's has an academic grant where they also give you, well, basically you can buy books and then get that value reimbursed up to an amount of 300, 400 quid. So you can get textbooks or basically equipment that will help you with your academic performance. I don't know whether other colleges have academic grants or not, but that's one of the reasons I really like St John's, and it is something that I think has really helped me out.
We have the same at Wadham, because we're quite a rich college as well. So you can get lots of books paid for the college. other life things as well. You can get reimbursed for, like, if it's say you have a disability of some kind, or some sort of medication, you can get all of that reimbursed by the college as well.
Yeah, Magdalen have £150 book grants, not 150, £100, sorry. So if you buy any books relating to your course, you can get them reimbursed as long as you show like the receipts for your purchases. They also have the student support fund. So if you need any extra money, if you're struggling financially, or if you need to support any other aspect of your lifestyle, you can apply for that at the beginning of the year. So I think the deadline for that was last week, and then they'll probably give you as much money as you need so that you're not struggling.
And someone asked, when do you apply for the bursary? You don't actually apply for it. It's you do your general student finance, and Oxford get the information from that and automatically give you the grant bursary if you're eligible.
Yeah, you get a letter towards the end of the summer saying how much you're eligible for.
Yeah.
Zainab's asked a couple of times, I think, do you have any advice for the modern languages aptitude test? I can quickly run through this. I might be able to talk about it when they don't know what the dates are for the aptitude test. I'm trying to figure out if I've got time in my next video to. It's very soon, isn't it? A week?
It's I think it's first week of November. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for modern languages, you've got a section on grammar, and then you've got a couple of translation sentences, English to Spanish, and a couple the other way as well. I think you only get half an hour per language, so it's quite intense for the time. The only things that I really did was a lot of revisiting different grammar points. So you'll probably have like a reference book or some grammar books that you're given from school anyway. Just go over stuff you're not confident in, particularly stuff like subjunctive, tenses. Just make sure everything's there are online, like people have mentioned, and just generally, if you can find material to translate, or dual language books are a great idea as well. So if you can read something in the original language and try and translate as you go and things like that, that's helpful. And that's basically how I went about applying for the MLAT. Any thoughts on St John's, Inés?
Best college ever. I don't know. Of course, I would say that. I think it's a great college. It's one of the richest in terms of giving back to their students. So there's the academic grants. There are lots of travel grants and other more specialised grants that you can apply for. My experience of St John's is that everyone is very friendly. There's lots of opportunities for free food, lots of events, and lots of different types of events, so not all of them revolve around alcohol. My experience of undergrad was they had a lot of variety, especially in the MCR. I feel that is very much emphasised. So we've got welfare officers who put on brunches and events without alcohol that are generally family friendly. We also have BOPs and I guess events, culture events, where we actually get people to go out of college and do different things. Tutor-wise, I think Michael mentioned earlier in the chat that he was thinking of applying for biological sciences. We've got Alan Graffin in St John's, who will very much like that you've read The Selfish Gene and would love to hear about it. So, and we've also got Teresa. So lots of animal behaviour and evolutionary biology from the tutoring aspect.
Something that you just reminded me of there, that popped up a while ago was about the pressures of Freshers Week, or what social pressures there are. Now, I think quite a lot of us have done a sort of Freshers video, if not all of us, I guess, in some way. Anything like specifically on the strand of like pressures and how you go about dealing with that, like potentially like Inés was saying about drinking, or yeah, settling in?
On drinking, I've never drunk anything at all and was not pressured at all during Freshers Week. There were always alternative activities and there was no pressure at all to go to any of the drinking ones. I still haven't drank any alcohol and I don't plan to, and I don't feel that changes at all.
I started at university when I was 17, and I was 17 for the full first year, so I wasn't allowed to drink, and obviously I'd get ID'd if I tried to go to any pubs or clubs. So I didn't do any of those, and honestly, I never felt pressured to do anything I didn't want to in terms of alcohol. I do drink now, but actually, I think my first proper drink happened after I finished finals, and in that time, generally, if I said no, I'm not interested in drinking, that was always respected, and there were always lots of alternative activities that did not involve alcohol. So again, that did not feel, never felt like I was missing out for not wanting to do that.
Bryce, do you have any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, the drinking age in the US is 21, so we come from a pretty different drinking culture, in that most students in college are not technically supposed to drink, but drink anyways. And drinking is a lot more relaxed around here. I mean, yeah, I definitely don't feel like there's any pressure to drink. I do drink. And like everyone said, there are plenty of alternatives. If you're hanging out with people, if you know, and you're in some strange situation where people are trying to pressure you to drink, you're hanging out with the wrong people. So, and I don't think you'll find yourself in that kind of situation. So I definitely wouldn't worry about it. If you don't want to drink, people will respect that.
I think there are some. Oh, sorry.
Go on, go on.
I was just going to say there are some environments in which I guess it's not. You're not necessarily pressured into drinking, but things like, I don't know if anyone's been on a crew day or
Okay.
like initiation type stuff. Like, I can't really speak from experience of those, but I can imagine that they're a little bit more focused on drinking. But even then, I've just come from a crew day where quite a lot of people didn't drink, and it wasn't like that.
Yeah, I don't drink either at all. And things like crew dates and different social events like that, sometimes everyone else is drinking, and even if you're not pressured to drink, a bit not awkward, but just a bit different that you don't drink. But even so, there will always be someone else who is similar to you. Not everyone is going to be drinking. You will be able to find someone else who isn't into that either.
Yeah, I've just realised that we've kind of only got about 8 minutes left. Let's see if there's, I think quite a lot of the things we've sort of answered already. Can you recommend something that's of equal value to the EPQ, because my school doesn't offer it, says Alex.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I don't have anything in my mind yet.
I was going to say, for medicine, I didn't do an EPQ, and it's definitely not essential that you do. There are loads of ways that you can show that you are interested, or that you can do independent research. The label of the EPQ. So one of the ways in which I did that was by running the medical society at my school, and I just researched a different disease or medical topic each week, the lower sixth. And there are lots of different ways which you can show interest, and you don't have to have an EPQ to be interested in your course.
It's not a requirement in any way to do an EPQ. I didn't do an EPQ either. I could have done, but I was doing 4 A-levels and didn't really have time. Yeah,
I did
just,
3
yeah,
A-levels.
just show your interest in other ways. Just read. Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
I did 3 A-levels and didn't do an EPQ either. It didn't hold anything against me. Just read as you wish.
Yeah, I'd agree. Got a couple of things to get through maybe. Chili Billy asks, I know that most of the time students have to move out during holidays, but I've heard that sometimes colleges make exceptions for care leavers or international students. Is this true? I know at Lincoln, I think that they're a little bit more flexible. If you're an international student or have a particular reason why you have to stay, you can apply for vacation residence. And even if you don't, there are like specific like luggage storage rooms in college for things over the back. I don't know how it works at other colleges.
Yep. I just got sent a form about vacations residence, which at Hughes you're guaranteed 21 days over a 3-year course of free vacation residence, which you can use whenever you like. and you can also, along with that, you can pay for additional days. So it's completely possible.
At St John's, you can apply for vacation residence as well as an undergraduate. They will normally, there are some rooms where you do actually have to move out, but they will generally let you move into a different room. It does involve applying for things, but they will generally give it to you. And as a PhD student, because you're basically around all the time, then there's no such restriction.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on back res and things like that? Okay. Katie asks, did you find the years during GCSE A-level go by very fast? What would you say to do so that you don't let revision end up being too late? Time is such a weird concept. Now I'm in my second year at Oxford. I feel like GCSE and A-levels were a really long time ago, and they felt long at the time, but they weren't. I'm in a bit of a weird time position. I don't know what anyone else thinks of how to not let things get too late. I guess just having structure and having a schedule, which a bit hypocritical of me because I'm not a sort of set routine kind of person.
I had a revision timetable. So I started my A2 revision around March or something. And that was sort of the little everyday thing. And then it went really intense towards the exam season. And if I hadn't done that revision timetable, I would not have been able to do my exams because, as Jessie mentioned, our school, the teaching wasn't excellent. So I had to teach myself quite a big portion of the syllabus. So I had to tell myself on Monday, I'm going to learn this topic. On Tuesday, I'm going to learn this topic and test myself on yesterday's topic or something like that. And little by little, if you're organized enough, it will be fine.
And I think what Yasser was saying about if you don't have teachers that will kind of test you or mark your work or anything, that can be really stressful, but be confident in yourself and try and test yourself. And I know that's really difficult for humanities, but kind of just do it. What I used to have in my head was I'd pretend, okay, so tomorrow I'm going to have 45 minutes and I'm going to have to write an essay. And after that 45 minutes, I'm going to have to send it to someone. I didn't actually send it to someone, but that would force me to do it and make me realise kind of how much I know, what I don't know, and what I can improve on.
A lot to be said for self-discipline, I guess. Someone asked, any thoughts on Merton? Don't know if it's worth saying the stereotypical line that comes along with is where fun goes to die. And I can completely say that this is not true. I've got friends at Merton who have a lot more bops than I do and like seem to go out just as much as I do and are really enjoying their degree and their social life. So for me, it has really, I've got tutorials there this year and it's really, really pretty. None of us go to Merton, but anyone else got any thoughts on it?
All I know is about that thing when the clocks go back. They walk odd backwards drinking port.
I'm sure one of us at some point will do a video incorporating Oxford traditions. So Merton has one where they, walk backwards and clocks go back or something.
Asking about the amount of essays we have to write. I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot, especially. Well, for me, I did sciences at A-level. I never really wrote essays. The closest thing I got to writing essays was like a smart question in the biology exam. So going from that to writing 3 essays a week, it is a massive change. And when you talk to your friends at other universities, so I have friends at Imperial, for example, who haven't written a single essay so far. And I've been doing like 3 a week. But again, it's all about organization. So to organize my time and say, on this day, I'm going to do this, tomorrow, I'm going to do that. Then it becomes manageable, and also setting time to do things outside of work. So social things, being able to relax, taking care of yourself. And then you eventually manage to find a work-life balance.
Just quickly on this theme of time, we're supposed to only have a minute left. I'm happy to just like round things up a little bit more, but I don't know if the stream's going to cut out. Does anyone else know how this works? As to whether it will just end.
It's 30 right now, so.
Okay, well, hopefully you can still Here, I don't know if everyone else is. I think there's probably only 3 or 4 things left to round up. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone asks if Hughes students feel a bit isolated because the college is further out. We are further out, which I actually quite like, but we're not that far out. Like, the music faculty is probably the furthest from Hughes, and it takes me 7 minutes to cycle there in the morning. So it's really not that far out. You definitely mingle with other students during lectures, and I don't feel isolated. I mean, I know most of the people I know considerably are in my college. I'd say that's the vast majority. But I think, I don't know, for most freshers, do you agree that most people you know at the moment are in your college anyway?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Bryce, have you got any thoughts coming from LMH, which is again a little bit far out?
It is quite isolated. I actually really like it. I do come from a very small school in the US, so I like that it's very quiet. I like that there aren't any tourists out here. I like that the traffic isn't heavy. In terms of socializing, I mean, I love the people in my college, but I'm also part of an a cappella group, and I definitely don't feel socially isolated. So I actually think it's kind of nice.
yeah, I agree. It's like a place to actually come home from where you've gone during the day.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're in the
absolutely.
centre, you
Absolutely.
stay in the centre. You can't go anywhere from the centre.
Mhm.
Whereas I can go to lots of different places and feel like I'm still kind of going somewhere for a purpose and then coming back.
Yeah, I think the rest of us are from colleges that are fairly central.
Yeah.
So probably the next furthest out, maybe. Yeah, I really like being. I guess this is kind of the other side of the coin. I really like being somewhere as central as Lincoln because I don't know, just gives you a bit of extra time in the mornings to be able to get out and about and things like that. It's just quite convenient, but at the same time, I can see the benefit of being somewhere a little further out.
It's also important to note for most people's like second or third years at some colleges, their accommodation is actually on the roads around Hughes. So if you're applying to a central college, I'd take into account whether you have on-site accommodation for all 3 years or however many years your course is. For most colleges in the centre, that isn't the case. So you will end up somewhere around Hughes or further, or in Cowley, which is the opposite direction, at some point.
Unless anyone's got anything else to say about colleges that are a bit further out, I've got one that I think would be quite nice to round up, unless you've got one that you've got your eye on. Okay, let me go for this one then. We can all chip in with this. It's what makes students from elite schools, I guess by schools, it's the American term for university, so special? What are the advantages and disadvantages of attending a prestigious university such as Oxford? I think it's quite a nice general one to close on what the pros and cons of Oxford are. It's a massive question, but there's lots of Oxvlog videos, by the way, on this sort of topic.
I don't know. There's a question that says, "Why did you choose Oxford?" I don't know. I feel that one's easier for me to answer. I know I chose biological sciences because I saw the course and I basically thought it was my dream degree. So I guess the enthusiasm was there, and as far as I was concerned, that was what I really wanted to study. So I wouldn't be losing anything from for it. I know that Oxford has a great reputation, but ironically, at the time of applying, that wasn't such a great thing because, as in, not such a huge thing. I didn't really understand very much about it. I think I went into the application process being quite clueless, but purely I just really liked the way the course was laid out.
I'm very similar to Ines. I really liked the music course here. Because I don't perform and I don't compose, I prefer writing like about music in a historical, philosophical sense. So the course kind of suited me, but I was very intimidated with applying. So kind of, I don't think I would have applied without this kind of the sort of interviews actually made me want to apply, which is quite weird. But you get to stay here for a week, and you get free food and free accommodation, and you get to talk some academics, which are really interested in your subject. So I just think that's quite a cool experience.
Yeah, Throw up any thoughts on why Oxford and advantages and disadvantages?
I initially didn't want to apply to Oxford because of all the stereotypes, really. And then I visited Oxford in March of year 12, I think, and I just fell in love. I love the city, I love the history, I love that there are so many people who are so passionate about what they do. I love the style of teaching for medicine, because with medicine, any medical school is a good medical school because they're all regulated by the General Medical Council. So it's all about where you learn best. So I like the structure of the course and the method of teaching, particularly the tutorial system. And I felt that I would be able to learn best here. So I came to several different events at Oxford. So I was here for the Unique Summer School for a week in July. I went to like different subject days and things like that. And I was just certain that this was where I really wanted to go. Yeah.
Rowan, I guess?
Why did I choose Oxford? It would be a lie to say it wasn't part of it wasn't just the prestige of it. You know, it's just considered one of the best unis in the UK. And I went on an open day. And it's hard also not to fall in love with how beautiful it is here. Yeah, that really attracted me at first. After that, I looked into my course. Really liked the look of it. Really liked the fact you have the tutorial system. You basically get, you know, a situation where there's 3 of you or 2 of you with an expert in your subject a few times a week, which is really appealed to me. Yeah, that's why I applied to Oxford, I think.
Yeah. Bryce, how are you finding it, and what were kind of your reasons for picking Oxford over Cambridge or other universities?
Sure. So I knew I wanted to study abroad in my 3rd year. That's a really popular option. US undergrad is 4 years, and a lot of kids in their 3rd year like to go abroad. My school requires you to take language courses if that country's like language is not English, and I didn't want to do that. And I could have gone to Japan because I speak Japanese, but I didn't want to do that either. So I was like, well, what English-speaking countries have good universities? And I was like, okay, UK. And back home, I'm a double major in physics and philosophy. And I was looking for sort of an integrated program, and Oxford had that. Physics and philosophy is not a very common program, and Oxford definitely has the best. Oxford is the place to do philosophy. So it was pretty easy for me, I think. I mean, everything added up.
I guess this leads me to kind of round off on what I think are the pros and cons of Oxford. Just off the top of my head, major thing is that with all its reputation and its amazing academics and tutors and everything like that comes a lot of stress. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in that in order to be here, you're always under a lot of pressure, but at the same time, you're always, I don't know, feeling like it's paying off. And I think the moments where I kind of realised that Oxford's for me is when you come out of a tutorial and just feel like you've seen things in a completely different way. You just have these moments where you're like, now it kind of clicks, or now I understand why I was here. And yeah, it's those kind of things. And also the people here are all wonderful. I think that's a major advantage of Oxford. I guess wherever you go, you're going to meet really interesting and really great people. But so far here, just everyone I've met, I've been able to learn something from, and everyone's been remarkably friendly. And yeah. Has anyone else got any questions that they can see that they feel they can give a quick response to, or feel would be good to round off, or are we good to just sort of? Seems like that's enough for everyone.
I don't even know how to see the chat.
I mean, hopefully, yeah, I just want to say how great this has been, and I think we've managed to get through quite a lot of questions and also got to know each other really well. The 6 of us haven't yet met up in person in Oxford, so hopefully we can arrange that soon and maybe film a bit of it to go on a video. it's been really nice chatting to you all, and it would be really great to do more of these in the future, especially now we know how the technology works. So yeah, maybe we can consider doing one maybe like right at the end of this term or at the start of next term or something like that.
Yeah, I think before interviews, if people would like that.
That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah, Oxford interview Q&A. I guess comment below or like this video if you'd be interested in us doing more of those. Yeah, if anyone wants to round off or say just thanks for watching, I guess.
Yeah.
If you have any extra questions for any of us specifically, you could always send us a message. Because I know there are a few questions which wouldn't be answered in like 2 minutes. So feel free to send us a message. We'll be happy to respond.
Yeah, especially on admissions tests, so that's kind of an individual subject type thing.
And if there are other subjects, we're more than happy to go and find someone.
Yeah, so either inbox us on Facebook or drop us a comment or a message on the YouTube channel. And who's going to be next to upload, I guess?
Me.
Ah, great. So I look forward to
Come tomorrow with different hair colour, but
nice one. Okay, so thanks so much for the 5 of you for agreeing to be a part of this.
Thank you very much for everyone. Thank you.
thank you for watching us, for sticking around.
Hope to see you for another live stream soon. And thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.
Bye.